Welcome to this video. Today I want to talk about Apple Mac computers. I recently purchased a new Apple Mac Mini. I just want to kind of share my experience and my opinion, my point of view, to help those of you out there wondering whether or not you should purchase a new Mac computer. Again, a lot of this is just my perspective, my opinion, and so I hope by sharing it, it will again help you make the best decision for you. Now, to start things off, I want to kind of talk about or point out the reasons why I think most people or a lot of people end up buying an Apple computer. And I think in most cases, it falls under one of two categories or both. The first category is, and I think this is much more common than a lot of people want to admit, but a lot of people buy Apple products, including Mac computers, because they are attractive. They look nice, they're sexy, they're well designed. They go well with the room, they're a fashion statement, a status statement, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people buy a lot of things based on the way they look. Cars, houses, clothing, food, a lot of things, almost everything we buy, the way it looks comes into play as to whether or not we purchase it. So again, if you like the way an Apple computer looks, and that's part of the reason why you purchase it, there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think that is one of the biggest selling points for a lot of people. The second category has to do with Mac OS itself. In one way or another, people either want or need Mac OS. And there's a lot of subcategories to this. For example, some people may feel that Mac OS is just better and superior to Windows. They may like the layout. They may feel it's more fluid. They may feel it's faster. They may like the UI or the user interface. And a lot of that is debatable. A lot of that is point of view. But again, that's something that may attract people to macOS. Additionally, they may be looking for exclusives, things that you can only do on macOS. Some people may want to just use Final Cut Pro on macOS. And there are some exclusives, not a lot, but there are some exclusives to Mac that you can't use on Windows. Often it's the other way around, where you'll find that something's available on Windows but not on Mac. But over the years, the cross-platform availability has gone up dramatically compared to what it was, say, a decade ago. Some feel that macOS requires less maintenance. As I already mentioned, some people feel that it's faster, and I do know back when Windows was releasing Windows Vista, it was having a lot of problems. People were not having a good experience with it, and so macOS kind of gained this reputation of being faster, less problematic, less errors. And as of today, that's a very debatable point. But again, a lot of people feel that way, and that's completely fine. Some may feel that macOS is more secure, more private than Windows. Again, another very debatable point of view. And the last subcategory would be if someone already owns a different or another Apple product, say an iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, or they use iCloud, you may want to get a Mac or an Apple Mac computer simply to stay with one service and for simplicity as far as syncing across devices. And I can definitely understand that when you're using a bunch of different services, syncing and making sure everything works with one another, it can become more difficult. So I do understand the attraction of just using one service, one company across all different devices. Now, as for myself, as I mentioned, I recently purchased a new Mac Mini. So which category do I fall under as far as one or two? I fall under number two. I bought a Mac Mini because I need access to Mac OS, specifically for this YouTube channel. If it wasn't for this YouTube channel, I probably personally would not have purchased another Mac computer. Now let's talk about reasons people do not buy a Mac. Now, obviously, you could just say the opposite of what I just said, but to be a little more specific, if you're on a budget or you want the best deal, the best bang for your buck, you're not going to find that with an Apple, really any Apple product, including a Mac computer. Additionally, if you're a gamer or if you use other apps that are not available on Mac or Mac OS, you're going to want to go with Windows. Some will argue that Mac OS is not as customizable as Windows. Additionally, many will say that PCs are more easily upgradable, specifically referring to the hardware, because Apple likes to have such control over their products. They don't give you a whole lot of wiggle room as far as being able to make upgrades, especially with the hardware. A lot of people see that as an advantage with PCs, as being able to upgrade in the future. Now, I do just want to go over my experience as far as deciding which Mac to purchase. You can see here is the Mac Mini up on the screen. When I first started searching, I originally thought, well, let's just go with a MacBook Air. It's small, portable, which would probably be a little more useful to me. But when I was looking at these, I noticed that they are just dual core processors. Now, Again, Apple knows that when it comes to selling their products, a large reason their products sell is because of the way they look. They don't prioritize performance over the way an actual product looks because, again, that's the selling point. So people who tend to be more tech savvy tend to go away from Macs for these types of reasons. Asking for $1,200 to $1,400 for a dual core, in my opinion, is just absurd. I took a look at the regular MacBooks, and again, they are just dual cores, and there's a price increase. Now they want $1,300 to $1,600 for a dual core, which again seems absurd to me in 2019. Looking at the MacBook Pros, you have to go all the way up to $1,800 to finally get a quad-core processor. Now, I don't intend to do massive, intensive multitasking with my Mac. However, buying a dual core in 2019 seems so out of date that it was just ridiculous. So I quickly put a pin in buying a MacBook Pro or a MacBook or a MacBook Air. I didn't even consider looking at the iMacs. I just went straight to the Mac Mini. Now, for me, I have a mouse, a keyboard, and a monitor already ready to go with this Mac Mini. So those are additional costs that you have to consider if you do not already have those. Here on Apple, they wanted $800 for the base. I actually went with the 6-core, which is $1,100. However, I actually purchased it on Amazon, and so it was a little bit cheaper. When I purchased it, it was $999. You can see that it's gone up by $50, but it's still cheaper here than buying at apple.com. You can also search other places like Best Buy. Here it's currently showing the same price, but the bottom line is if you're going to buy a Mac, shop around from authorized retailers or resellers, so that way you can get the best price. Just simply going to apple.com is not always the best choice as far as getting the best price. Now let me first talk about some things that I do like about this Mac Mini. Yes, it is a very attractive looking machine, as I've already mentioned. It's small, it's quiet. macOS is, I like macOS. It's attractive, it's very nice, it works well. I do like it, I do enjoy it. It does come with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi built in. It does have built-in speakers, which are not the greatest, but they are there. And those last three things are not always included in desktop PC computers. You don't always get Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and speakers built in, which is kind of nice to see with something like this. And I do know that with the MacBooks or the iMacs, the display can also be a very attractive selling point because it's often a very, very nice display that comes included with those products. But as many of you know, the reputation is Apple is overpriced. And referring to the specific hardware that I have in mind, I do agree with that point of view. Let's actually go over the hardware that is included. So I did get an Intel i5 6-core processor with 8 gigs of RAM, integrated graphics, as well as 256 gigs of SSD space. Now let's compare that to a PC desktop, which is approximately the same price. It's actually cheaper. It's $999, which is the same price that I actually spent on my Mac Mini. But as of today, with prices the way they are right now, this is a little bit cheaper. And let's compare the hardware. So in this one, we get an AMD Ryzen 7 2700X. This is an 8-core, 16-thread processor. Remember, the Mac Mini has 6 cores, 6 threads. This is 8 cores, 16 thread. We also get twice as much RAM, and it's also faster RAM. This is 3000, DDR4 3000. Now you can upgrade that in the Mac Mini. You can do it yourself, however, it will void the warranty. So they want you to bring it into an Apple store to upgrade that RAM. It costs more. It can be done, but again, with this Windows PC, 16 gigs already in, and you can upgrade it yourself very easily if you want to go past that. Additionally, this has a 500 gig SSD, so it's twice as big as what was in the Mac Mini, and it also has a dedicated graphics card, the RX 580. Let's actually compare this to the integrated graphics of the Mac Mini. This is a benchmark. We've got what the Mac Mini has here on the left. We have what the comparable Windows PC has on the right. And you can see it's a difference of about 679%. So the RX 580 completely blows the Mini out of the water with those integrated graphics. So this is just one example. Now, of course, this computer is much bigger. It's much larger. And it will probably be even a little bit louder. It's not going to be silent or close to silent like the Mac Mini is. And so, as far as the way it looks, the Mac Mini probably looks more attractive than this computer. For some, it's an opinion thing. But let's point out something here with these Mac Minis, and this is the same with pretty much every Mac computer, is because they're built more for attractiveness, they don't have the best cooling in these systems. Now, they advertise very well, they make it look like it's going to be fine, but the reality is a lot of Mac computers have heating problems, or they overheat or thermal throttle. So even though this has a 6-core processor that says it turbo boosts up to 4.6, the likelihood of being able to use all 6 cores at that speed is very, very small. You're not going to be able to take the full advantage of this processor with this Mac Mini. Something like this, like a PC that's wide and open and has a lot of airflow, this is going to have superior cooling to pretty much any Mac that is available, which means you're going to be able to harness the full potential of this CPU, whereas again with Mac, you don't always have that option. So Apple doesn't care because again, they know that they're selling on looks, not performance. And so again, that's why people who are a little more tech savvy, who understand this, tend to move away from Macs because they want to harness the full potential of their hardware. A lot of people feel I'm already paying a high price for this hardware, which I feel is overpriced. And now you're telling me I can't even harness the full potential of it because of thermal throttling, which can also damage the motherboard. So you have to worry about that as well. So the bottom line is I will never actually use this computer under a full workload, knowing that it can get very hot and cause future problems. If you like Mac and you prefer Mac OS, you like the way it looks, there's nothing wrong with that. Feel free to purchase one. I purchased one. People have reasons to buy them, and that's completely fine. I do feel that there is a place for them to use. As mentioned earlier, a lot of people feel that Mac OS is faster, requires less maintenance, less errors, or it's more secure, more private than a Windows computer. And those are all very debatable points. But I should also mention that Linux is a real thing that is available and it's free, and certain distributions of Linux can make a very strong argument that they are more private, more secure, and possibly even faster than Mac OS. Again, this is all debatable, but the point I'm getting to is that Linux is free, so if your selling point is that Mac OS is more secure, faster, or one of those points, you can buy a cheap PC or even build a cheap PC, put Linux on it, and away you go. The bottom line is if you prefer Mac, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's a very attractive, sexy looking machine. It fits very well and easily on my desk. It's silent, quiet. I do like it, and Mac OS is always an attractive operating system to use. I understand why people like Mac products. But if you're looking for the biggest or best bang for your buck, the best deal, the best performance, as far as just the hardware, you're going to want to lean towards PC. That's everything for this video. If you have any comments, questions, disagreements, please post them down below in the comments section. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you found it helpful, please go ahead and consider sharing it. And please also consider subscribing to my channel, and don't forget to hit that bell icon to get notifications on future videos.